Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 117 of the show, and before we get started, we're going to do a bit of house cleaning real quick because, well, we always do it. I do want to thank you guys for coming back and listening to the show. It really means a lot to me. You guys constantly keep coming back, keep downloading the episodes, keep sharing them. You know, if you're watching on YouTube, then you keep watching these videos and responding in the comment sections. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, thank you guys for coming back and listening because you guys are mainly the ones downloading and sharing the episodes. So it really means a lot to me. You guys keep doing that. I do want to let y'all know that we did reach over 1,600 total downloads. So thank you guys so much for that. It really, really means a lot to me. Hopefully we can get over 2,000 before the end of the year because that'd be actually pretty cool. Aside from that, today has been a very interesting day. Not only because today has been the Xbox July event, which, spoilers, that's what we're talking about today. A lot of other stuff has happened. Like, it was just, today's been a weird day. I really just had a fun time today. Like, that's why it took a little bit longer to record the episode, and why, you know, obviously if you guys are watching this, then it doesn't seem like the normal time that I would usually do the episode, and it seems a little bit darker. Obviously if you're listening to the podcast on Spotify or wherever you're listening to them, you can't really tell because my voice is, you're only listening to my voice. So the only people that see the difference is the YouTube folks. So, hi, you know, it's a little bit darker outside, but bear with me because I wanted to take a little bit of time with this one, mainly because, yes, I get it. It's the July events. It's easy for me to go over and just, you know, word vomit everything that we saw. But I also wanted to generate my thoughts and opinions because this was a very divisive event for good I say for good reasons, but I think some of the reasons are a little bit questionable. And as we go through it, you'll see why. And that's really why I even have my iPad, so I can like quickly go through everything that was shown off. And then we can go into discussing some of the bigger things because there were some big things. So I'm going to have my iPad right here on screen. So bear with me with this, guys, while I proceed to read through what was actually shown. So going off the games that were shown, Halo Infinite started the event, which pretty much makes sense. I expected Halo Infinite to start the event. I didn't really see why Halo wouldn't start it because it was obviously the most anticipated game and it's the one that was building up to the event. And yes, it got gameplay. They showed campaign footage, and I will go into details about that a little bit later as we go through the episode. But following that, we got a trailer for the State of Decay 3. I know some of my friends really like that game. Like, you know, they just like State of Decay. And well, they're getting a third one, and the trailer looked good, so we can go from there. They showed off that there will be a new Forza Motorsports, which makes sense. Like, they always do a new Forza Motorsports after there's a mainline Forza game. So with Forza Motorsports, they also said that they were able to get the game running at 4K 60 with ray tracing enabled, and it looks gorgeous, extremely gorgeous. Like, that's why people were making jokes like, "What's a Gran Turismo?" Because it blew Gran Turismo out of the water. Like, this isn't just me being an Xbox fanboy, because you'll understand why you can't really use that on me right now. But yes, it did look better than Gran Turismo for sure. Also, we got to see a new game from Rare. If you guys don't know, Rare are the people in charge of making Banjo-Kazooie. And if you guys are in the Smash community, then you know that Banjo-Kazooie was added in Smash Bros. And people were a little bit surprised that they didn't make a new Banjo-Kazooie game, which makes sense. You know, Banjo-Kazooie is one of those IPs that hasn't been really used so much by Microsoft recently. And it's interesting that they actually made a new game called Everwild, and it looks really good. In my opinion, I like that art style. I think it looks really nice. We also got to see more stuff regarding Tell Me Why, which is a new a new game that I'd say in the style, it looks more like the Friday the 13th art style. It looks more like that, but it was nice seeing actual like more in-depth footage about the game, and it seemed interesting. Not my cup of tea, but I get why. We also got an announcement from the developers of Ori that they have decided that they will be bringing Ori the Will of the Wisp, and they're going to be bringing it to the Xbox Series X, except with a 4K 120 frames per second mode, which that's really nice. I think that game definitely deserves it, especially with the up graphics quality. You know, running at native 4K with 120 frames, I think is really good for that game. Not really much complaints because a lot of people did like Ori, and Ori's a very popular game for Microsoft, so I don't see why they wouldn't. It has a good market, and you know, doesn't hurt. We also got 3 things from Obsidian this time. If you guys don't know, Obsidian is the people that, well, if you guys don't know, Obsidian made Fallout New Vegas, they made The Outer Worlds, and they actually started off by sharing new Outer Worlds DLC. So first look preview at the Outer Worlds DLC coming. They also showed 2 new IPs that they're working on, 2 new games for Microsoft. Grounded is it's a weird bug game basically. You're like a small little people, you're in the grass, and you're basically like building stuff, and you're like fighting insects. It's just like, it's hard to describe. It's just really weird. Like, there's a lot of meta commentary where they're like, you know, the biggest game of the year, and they started Cyberpunk 2077, which, well, yeah, you know, everybody thinks Cyberpunk is the biggest game of the year. And it was funny because they said their game is like the smallest game of the year, so you don't have to focus on it. But they also announced a new Obsidian RPG called Avowed. And granted, we only saw a trailer. That's all we did see was a trailer. And it looked good based on the trailer. The trailer looked good. I can say that. And that's a trend that we really see throughout this event, is a lot of trailers. Halo was really the only game that we got real gameplay of, so keep that in mind. We also got a new IP from a new studio that Microsoft has acquired called As Dusk Falls. It seems like a Telltale series style game, like mainly just storytelling. Like, it's mainly just telling a story, interactive story. We also saw a little bit of Hellblade 2. We didn't really see any new gameplay regarding it, but Ninja Theory has come out and said the setting of where the game is taking place, you know, thanking the audience for their love and support in regards to Hellblade, because it is a really popular game. It's a really well-liked game. And it looks really nice. The scenery they chose in Iceland, and they also posted a video on their YouTube page, like breaking down why they chose Iceland of all places. We also got a new Psychonauts. We got Psychonauts 2, and the trailer, to be honest, looked like an acid trip. It was some pretty weird stuff. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. This was some weird shit. It was extremely weird, and it freaked me out a little bit. But you know, some people like it, and I can't tell people what not to like, so we'll just go with it. We also got news from the Xbox Game Pass that they finally announced officially that Xbox Game Pass will receive the xCloud in September for free, no extra charge. But Destiny 2 is also coming to the Xbox Game Pass. So that means if you have Xbox Game Pass, you can get Destiny 2 and you would get all the expansions, and then you would also be able to get the Beyond Light expansion for free as well when it comes out. So that's actually really cool. I think that's really, really helpful, especially because of how popular Xbox Game Pass is. It's a very popular service for Microsoft, and it's making them a lot of money. We also got 2 announcements of 2 new IPs. We got Stalker 2. Stalker originally, like when I was watching it, my friend, he told me that's a really popular game on PC that a lot of people like. So a lot of people were excited that there's a Stalker 2 coming. We also got Warhammer 40,000. That game, Gilberto was like, that looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. We also got a new Tetris game called Tetris Effect, which was a bit weird. People were like, Tetris? What the hell is Tetris doing here? We also got the Gunk, a new IP as well. We got the Medium, a new IP. We also got Phantasy Star Online 2, New Genesis. A lot of people are excited about this because this is obviously Microsoft's attempt to repairing the, I would say, the lack of Japanese basically JRPGs on Xbox platform. This is something that is interesting that they're doing this, and I think it's a good move. I think starting with Phantasy Star Online makes sense. It's not a bad idea to have JRPGs on your platform because, you know, Sony's been killing it with the JRPGs recently. We also saw campaign footage for Crossfire X, and it looked really good. Like, to be honest, it looked really good. Like, it looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. And to end off the day, or I'd say the event, we got a new Fabled announcement. And a lot of people were really surprised because, well, I say surprised. A lot of people knew this was coming, but they're excited that we're getting a new Fabled because it's been almost, 10 years since we had a new Fabled? So getting a new Fabled is a good thing, for sure. It really, really is. So how do I really feel? So I want to mainly start with Halo because this is the game that really makes or breaks this console. It really does. It makes or breaks the start of this generation because it is the launch title. Halo is the game that's been hyped up the most. It's the one that's been, put the most weight on is Halo. Like, they definitely have. And based on what we saw, I liked it. But I will understand why a lot of people have concerns, and I'll explain why. So we did get to see a trailer, like an intro trailer for it. It looked phenomenal. And then we actually got to see gameplay of a campaign mission. And it revealed a lot of details that a lot of people were like, that's interesting. We got to see, the new HUD. We got to see actually like gameplay of like interactions. We got to see that there is going to be a grappling hook added to the Spartan armor, which granted, it's not as crazy as Titanfall, which I personally thought when there was rumors going around that there was going to be a grappling hook feature. To me, I was a bit worried that it was going to be like Titanfall 2 or it was going to be something like Just Cause, which Just Cause is ridiculous with the grappling hook feature. But I'm glad it's very, very tame. It's only used for like specific situations and I like it. I think it's good. Sprinting. Some people have noted that the sprinting actually seems like it's slower. There will be sprinting in the game. There will be. Some people are up in arms about it, but a lot of people are okay with it because they're like, hey, it's not as bad. It makes sense, especially when the game is now an open world game. And this was actually confirmed once they opened the menu and they show that it's an open world game. And a lot of people are excited. They think this looks cool. Granted, in terms of visuals, this is where things become a bit iffy and where a lot of people tend to have issues because, yes, I'm being honest. In motion, the game looks great. Like, when you see the game in motion, it looks great. Everything flows well. Elites actually look like elites now. Brutes look pretty good. However, when you stop like specific frames, it looks bad. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's definitely a demo, which they even said it was a demo. And some people are getting a little bit more critical in regards to it. And some people are saying like, oh, just because Halo looks bad, that means now like Microsoft basically told everyone to buy a PS5. And I'm like, no, I think that's clickbaity. I think that's very ignorant to say that. I think that's very, very poor judgment call right there. I get it. People are allowed to have their opinions, but that is a very extreme call to make. And I don't really agree with that. I think that's really pushed. Like, you have to be really pushing it to say that. Because yes, this is still a demo. It's not ready yet. Granted, yes, I know there's going to be some tweaks done and the art style is new. That's something we just have to be honest. Art style is new and the performance looks great. So in motion, it looks great. And obviously that can happen with anything. Like, prime example, like you're watching this video, you can stop at a specific frame and it's going to look bad. Like, I'm being honest with you. That's what happens. But there definitely needs to be some work done, clearly. But I also understand why some people are concerned because, yes, this game is supposed to run on the original base Xbox One. And that thing is not the most powerful console. It's definitely nowhere near as powerful. It's weaker than the base PS4. And the fact that they're going to get this game to run on there makes a lot of people feel like they had to limit it because they couldn't really make it run the way they wanted to exactly on the base Xbox One. And a lot of people have this concern that, yes, the base Xbox One is holding back progress for the Xbox Series X. Because the One X, I can see the One X at least doing 4K 30 with no issues, or maybe even like 1080 60, or maybe they could even get it to do, 4K 60. But the fact that the Series X, it does, like, a lot of people don't feel like it really is a next gen game. That's what a lot of people are concerned with, and a lot of people have issues with, because it just doesn't feel like a next gen game. And I understand why, because yes, the visuals are rough at some spots. Let's just be honest. I'm being objectively honest here because I needed time to process this, because I had to try to be as objective as I can be, because this is hard. Like, granted, yes, gameplay wise, it was great, phenomenal. I love the gameplay is tight, it's smooth, it's just great. I love the gameplay. I'm interested to see more once they show the multiplayer, once they show, more stuff about the campaign, reveal more details, polish it up a little bit more. And I'm interested to see the final product. However, I also understand why a lot of people are concerned, because they just feel like the base Xbox One might have held this one back a little bit. But we've already discussed this, and a lot of people have already discussed this to begin with. Yes, it makes sense that Microsoft is still going to develop games for the Xbox One because they don't want their consumers to feel obligated to upgrade to the new hardware until games are specifically made. And you also have to keep in mind, during this event, there were a lot of games that are only going to be made for PC and the Series X. There's games that will not go on the Xbox One. They won't do it because they want to just run it on the new hardware. And that's okay. I get it with Halo. They wanted it to run on the Xbox One because they want their consumers to, stay on the platform until they need to upgrade, which granted, yes, Xbox, the Series X games won't happen until like at least a year or two after launch. And this has a lot of people concerned because they're like, yes, Sony is taking a different approach. They're basically just ditching the PS4 and every game is going to be only for the PS5 and that's it. And this pisses off a lot of people too, because it just comes off as very anti-consumer. Like Sony's like, yeah, you have to upgrade. You cannot rely on old hardware. And that kind of sucks for a lot of people because they just don't have the money to shell out to buy a new console. And it really sucks. So you're basically dealing with a balancing act here where it's like you have a company that's very prosumer, or at least pro-consumer in this sense, where they're actively doing a lot of things that are good for the consumer and trying to earn your trust. And then you have another company that isn't doing so much to earn your trust, but that company also makes really good games. And Microsoft, even though, yes, they have games, it's still not what people consider the best. And that is true. Like, this is another thing that really leads into my thoughts about the event, where people are saying that because of this event, Sony just absolutely pimp slapped Microsoft, that Xbox is dead because of this. And like, I'm like, guys, come on. Like, you're overreacting. You're stating nonsensical garbage. You really like, it's even more saddening when you see bigger YouTubers saying that, oh, this is the death of Xbox because they blew it. I'm like, no, they didn't. Like, first off, they didn't even show all the first party games. Like, not all the studios showed off their first party games. That's just what happened. Like, the Coalition didn't show anything. Playground Games only showed Fable, but that's it. They didn't show that they were working on anything else. Obviously, we didn't see anything from Mojang. So there's a lot of things that still haven't been shown. And I think it's just very disheartening when you see these bigger channels just stating this nonsense just to get people riled up. And I get it. Like, hey, YouTube is a business for some people. Like, they got to get clicks somehow. And this is just what it feels like, is like they're saying very controversial things to get people worked up so that they would click on their videos and just basically exploit a good situation because it's a good talking point. In my opinion, it's interesting to say the least, because I do not think this was a terrible event. I also do not think this is an amazing event. I think this was an okay event. I think it was a good event. It wasn't terrible, but it also wasn't amazing, outstanding like we thought it was going to be. Because yes, there was a lot of expectations going into this event. We have to be honest. We set expectations incredibly high. For the PlayStation event, we didn't really set expectations so high. We just primarily focused on seeing the console, which you also have to keep in mind. I think this is another reason why you can't really compare the PS5 event with the Xbox event, because yes, Sony only showed gameplay for Ratchet and Clank. That's it. And then the rest were trailers. But I get why a lot of those trailers were for big games like, Horizon Zero Dawn 2. You had, Spider-Man. You had, Spider-Man. You had Horizon Zero Dawn 2. You had, Ratchet and Clank. You had Gran Turismo. Like, you had all these other games shown off. And I get why people are a little bit upset, because Microsoft really only showed gameplay for Halo and that's it. But I also get why, because Halo is the biggest game. And obviously Fabled was a nice surprise at the end because a lot of people were excited to see that. And in my opinion, I think another reason why the PlayStation event was really good was because they showed the PS5. That's also a big thing, is like they showed the PS5. People got to see it. And it's what led to the big talking point. And granted, yes, as time went on after the PS5 event, people began to sour on it because they're like, well, Spider-Man is only a 5 to 10 hour game. It's, yes, people are saying it's just a glorified DLC, and I know the developers are like, look, it's not a DLC, it's brand new, built on the engine. But a lot of people are like, look, they're gonna say that. Of course, they're not just gonna come out and say it's basically a DLC. Like, all we did was just barely tweak stuff and then made it look nicer. Like, of course they're not gonna say that. But when are legitimate rumors saying that the game is only gonna be 5 to 10 hours, I don't know what to tell you guys. It looks like a DLC. That's what it looks like. Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is going to have very steep competition when it comes to Nintendo, because Nintendo is also making Breath of the Wild 2. If you guys don't remember, the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild competed with Horizon Zero Dawn, the first game, and it just stomped it because people liked Breath of the Wild more. And the fact that Breath of the Wild 2 is in development at the same time as Horizon Zero Dawn 2, who knows? They might launch them at the same time and just have another round, basically round 2, to see who wins. I wouldn't be surprised if Breath of the Wild wins, because it was considered a perfect game by many people's regards. When it comes to Forza, I'm interested to see Forza running at ray trace 4K 60. I think that's going to be really nice. Granted, I don't really care about Forza Motorsports. I care about actual Forza, like Forza 5. That's what I really care about, because Forza Horizon 4 was really good. I love that game. Really good racing game. Forza Horizon 5, I bet you it's going to look amazing. We didn't see anything for Gears of War 6, which that's why I said I'm really sad, because the Coalition didn't get to show anything. But we know that they're working on Gears of War 6. After Gears of War 5, I'm excited to see Gears of War 6. I really am. Like, that's just me being honest. But I will say this. I think we honestly set expectations a bit too high for this event. And that's okay, because we did set a lot of high expectations. And I also think it's not fair to just get on Microsoft's grill and just say, oh, they showed off all these irrelevant games that no one's going to care about. And I'm like, well, you guys asked for a more diverse roster of games. You know, like, you're the same people who are complaining that they only rely on these specific big IPs. And when they make new IPs, you're like, you guys just shit on it. And it's like, well, what do you guys want? Like, you guys want new IPs, or do you just want them to keep relying on older IPs and just make good older IP games? Like, they're trying to make new IPs. Like, they did. They showed off a good amount of new IPs. They did. That's just what they did. They showed off a lot of IPs. Even though, yes, some people say, like, it's a lot of indie garbage. And I'm like, dude, we can say the same thing about the PlayStation event. Besides all the main big line games, the rest of the games look trash. They really did. That's just, they did. Like, they looked pretty bad. Like, some of them were good. I'm not going to lie. Like, one of them I'm interested in. But this is a case where we're going to have to wait and see. I think Microsoft is doing a lot of smart moves where they're being very prosumer. They're being, well, pro-consumer, really. Not prosumer, because, well, that doesn't make much sense. They're being very pro-consumer in this aspect, and Sony is being very stubborn and stiff, but they're making really good games. And this is going to be interesting to see how this generation plays out, because, yes, the Xbox is still the more powerful console. It is. And if it ends up being cheaper than the PS5 with the better deals and everything, especially if the rumors are true that Xbox Live could be free, with the Xbox Series X, free Xbox Live, and Game Pass, it would be a tough offer for people to say no. But I also get a lot of people that buy the PS5, they're just going to see games like Spider-Man and just buy it because it's that. And then obviously we joked about it afterwards, but like, well, yeah, then they play it for like 5 hours and they're like, man, this sucks dick. But it's just what happens, you know, like, this generation is going to be mainly defined on the value that is being offered. Like, how much the consoles are worth is going to be incredibly interesting to see what happens. And when we see games, because like I said, a lot of the big games won't come out until like at least a year or two after the consoles are out. Granted, yes, it makes sense to have a good launch title. Like, the launch title for the PlayStation 5 is either, well, it's both Godfall and Spider-Man. And then for Xbox, there's a lot of the other smaller new IPs, and then Halo. I think if the gameplay is good, the campaign is good, and yes, even if the graphics are still a little bit wonky, that's maybe because of the art style or something like that, then I think it's a fair game. I think it's fair, you know? I think it's going to be a fair battle. Because Halo, what they've said, and I actually recently saw this, where they talked about with Halo Infinite, that Microsoft is planning on making this a 10-year game, that they want this game to last for the long haul. Like, they don't plan on making another Halo for a while after this game. Like, they want Halo Infinite to be this big, long-standing game that constantly gets worked on. I would be interested if that's true. Like, do I feel like they rushed this game out just because they wanted the campaign ready for the holidays? Some of me says yes and some of me says no. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I will say that. I wouldn't be surprised if they rushed this game out just to get it to run on the Xbox One and get it ready for the holidays. I would not be surprised because they're under a lot of stress. Like, this is a big game. This is the biggest game that's launching for the start of the console generation, like the 9th generation of consoles. The biggest leap in graphics power and actual power in general that we've had in such a long time in consoles. And this is going to be crazy to see how this plays out. But in my opinion, I think the event was okay. That's just how I describe this event, is that it was okay. I'm being objective. I'm being unbiased, even though a lot of people know, yes, I have a bias towards Xbox, but I'm putting down the bias and just being honest. I'm like, look, this was an okay event. There was a lot of flaws. There was a lot of issues. I think the lack of showing, not like the lack of gameplay in the sense that they didn't show a ton of it, makes it really hard to try to defend Microsoft in this sense. It really is hard because I think they really should have showed more gameplay of Halo, or maybe at least slowed it down a bit instead of just trying to jam pack as much as you can in there, and at least let people like soak in the world and soak in like this is an open world Halo. And I think showing more gameplay for the other games would have been a great idea as well, because then it would have gave people like, hey, this is what you can expect. Granted, there's also going to be another event in August where that's where I think we'll see the WB announcement where Microsoft is rumored to buy out Warner Brother Games, and that's where we're going to see the Project Lockhart. And then maybe we'll get the prices of the actual Xbox Series S and the Series X. And then Sony also has an event rumored for August as well, where they'll probably show more games, or they might show the price of the damn thing. Who knows? But overall, I hope you guys enjoy. Like, these are my thoughts in regards to the event. If you know, let me know what you guys think. Did you guys watch the event? If you did, like, let me know. And if you didn't, I would highly recommend go watching it yourself so you can generate your own thoughts and opinions. That I'm giving you mine, but I also want you guys to have your own thoughts and opinions and not just rely on mine and not just rely on other people's, because I'm being honest, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to make a lot of videos and they're going to be clickbaity trash. They will. That's just objective, honest truth. That's what's going to happen. They're just going to make objective garbage, like not even objective. Like, they're going to make their subjective opinion be absolute fact, and it's going to be funny to watch because it's not objective fact. They're just going to spew garbage, and that's it. Granted, yes, if they have constructive criticism, hey, I would listen. But if they're just going to criticize something just because they're like, oh, this doesn't look so good, like, look at this specific frame at this specific instant, like, come on, guys. You're not helping at all. You're not doing anyone any favors. Like, let's just be honest here. Come on. We want the consumer to win in the end. We want to push these companies to give us the best product possible because we are the ones giving them money for these products. But in my opinion, this was an okay event. Just be mindful when you're watching videos from other people, guys, because people are going to say some crazy shit. I'm not going to lie to y'all. They will. Granted, a lot of people talking about Halo, it's a very mixed bag. People are really happy with the gameplay, but the graphics are obviously the big meme. But in my opinion, I think this was an okay event. I do not think Sony or Microsoft didn't just give Sony the win instantly. I do not think that. I think that's very ignorant and very blatant poor journalism to say that. And if you do say that, I'm sorry, but you need to really reevaluate things, because yeah, you're really pushing it at that point, my man or woman, whatever. Like, whatever. But you get what I'm saying? Like, you're really pushing it at that point. But I thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It really, really means a lot to me. Thank you guys for all your love and support. Really means a lot to me. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Please continue to be safe out there. Continue to take care of everyone around you, and just have fun this weekend, but do it while also being safe, please. You guys are great. I love you guys. Thank you to my Patreon backers. If you liked today's episode, you can leave a like, dislike. It doesn't really matter to me. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. If you guys haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon so you guys can get notified when these episodes go live. And if you're listening on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to the show, let me know down below. Like, click on the comments, or I would say, like, rate the episodes or rate the show and let me know what you guys think, because then it just helps overall. But I love you guys to death. Please be safe, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Hey there, thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.